Don't sleep on grid template areas. They let you lay out sections on your page based on simple declarations that allow you to have full control on every single viewport size. Let's check it out. Hey, what's up? My name is Chris and welcome to Coding in Public. Okay, so let's jump in. I've got these 4 sections here. We're going to use grid template areas to set these out. I've selected them down this way, and all I'm going to do is start by giving these each a grid area name, and I'll name it whatever I want. In this case, it'll be header, and notice it's not a string. We're going to do the same thing for each of these as well. So sidebar, main, and footer. Now, as soon as I save, notice that they're all going to kind of go down here, and that's because I happen to find what areas they should be in, so they're kind of guessing and doing a bad job at that. So let's come up top here. We're going to look at one important thing here, and that is that I do have a min height of 100 VH. Otherwise, they kind of like stick to the top. So this is one important thing you'll need. And then the parent is a grid container. Now, with just that said, I can now come in here with grid template areas like this, and we can just define each of these with string values. So if I come inside here, we're going to define them by setting them out the way we want them to be. So for instance, I'm going with the header, and the header. And as soon as I do this, that header section jumps up top. Now, because it's not quite sure what to do with everything else, it just shoves it down to the bottom. So what we're going to do is now define a second row here, again, inside of a string, where we'll have like a sidebar, a main, and a main. So now it's set those two up. Finally, you guessed it, we've got the footer. So I'll come in here with footer, footer, and footer. Now, why am I defining these things multiple times? Header, 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 footer, footer, footer. I'm actually setting out, you'll notice here, not only how many rows I have, but also how many columns I have. Now you might say, well, I don't want this to be equal size with the sidebar and the main. And so you could come in here, for instance, and you could say like this multiple times, and now it takes up more of these rows, but there is a way to combine grid template areas with things like grid template columns and grid template rows. So I'm going to say grid template rows right here. And here's where we're going to say auto, 1FR, and auto. In other words, this top section should only ever take up this space it needs. These next sections should take up the rest of the space, the available space, any extra space. And then this footer down here should only take the auto. This is especially where min height comes important here because you can see, obviously, if I don't have that, then nothing really gets distributed evenly on the page. Now, a couple important things here. Let's say you want the main to take up more space. If I do this, you'll notice it kind of breaks the whole flow, and that's because I have 4 columns defined here, and everywhere else I only have 3 columns. So I'm going to need to come back inside here. We're going to add 4 to all of those, and now it should distribute it properly. Now, I'll notice something here. I've just done this on the body tag itself. So if I come back down to a small size, this is how it looks on mobile too, and I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is just drag all this down this way. So I've got a little media query where now it will only show inside there. However, if I go back here, you'll notice we've got the same issue we had before, and that is that everything is smashed to the bottom. So I do need to actually have a grid template areas right here. But the nice thing is I can just do header, sidebar, main, and footer, and we'll just stack them right up just as you'd expect. I do also want to think through this as well. Do I want them to be evenly distributed, or would I want it to be more like auto, auto, auto like this? And then we could copy this down, bring it down this way, and just get rid of that one. So now the main takes up the main section on mobile, and as I get to bigger screen sizes, you'll see that the sidebar just takes up the space it needs. Now, just like we added grid template rows, we could also do the same thing with grid template columns. So grid template columns, I can use these fractional units to set off exactly how much space these things take up. This first one should only be auto, and then everything else should be one fractional unit. So the sidebar only takes up the space it needs, the main gets the main content, so that this section is the only one that is one fraction both on the row and also on the column. Now, one more thing to note here, you can replace any of these with a simple dot, and what this will do is just leave a blank space in your grid. So I could say, hey, I only want the header to go there and there. Everything else should kind of take up the available space. And you can actually visualize this really well in Chrome DevTools. I'm sure you can do it in other browsers as well. But if I come in here, you can see I got this nice little overlay here. And if you want this to actually stick, you can come into the layout. You can actually come in here and select this, and it will just stay on top here. So even as you change stuff and adjust things, if I come back in here and add a header, you'll see that that takes up that space as well. Now, one quick thing, you do have to have these sections connected. It can't like break up the square. So I could not come in here and say like footer and expect it to just add a little part of the footer up there. These are essentially like rectangles. That's how you need to think about this. Now, if you've been eagle-eyed, you may notice that I've got main, main, main multiple times. I don't necessarily need that anymore. What I could do is just have 3 columns like this and then spread this out using this column syntax. That would be like this, and it would take over that whole space. The same thing would work here. In fact, we can go one further and just get rid of this, like that, like this, and like this. Now the footer is going to take up the whole space. The sidebar will only take up that one column here, the space it needs. The main takes up all the rest of the available area, and the header is just over here because we've set this dot this way. One last change, why don't we come over here and add the sidebar and the sidebar and the sidebar, and that way it always stays on the side and we've got all the other content here. So grid template areas are such a powerful way to lay out sections on your page. It's one of the easiest ways to grok the power of the grid system. Well, I hope that was a big help. I'll catch you in the next one. Happy coding. I'm doing a fundraiser in September 2025 for childhood cancer, and you could win some amazing donation incentives like from Vercel and Warp and my own Astro course, a bunch of other stuff in here from Neon, Mox, Cloud Cannon, and more. You all are so generous every single year. All you have to do is give $5 and send me your receipt by the end of September, and you'll be entered to win one of these. Now, the great thing is I have so many things to give away that almost everyone who gives is guaranteed to win one of these. So show your generosity again this year, give below, and help cure childhood cancer.